So our first guest of the 20th anniversary series, the beginning of the Iraq War, is retired Sergeant First Class Joe Swoboda. Joe Swoboda and I met on my last combat deployment to Iraq at Fallbase Canneria. He was the platoon sergeant. After that, we both went our own ways, and I hadn't really spoke to Joe for almost 15 years. I followed him a little bit on social media and saw that he'd been very active with working with other veterans, guys that were struggling with PTSD, suicide, things like that. He'd gotten himself hooked up with a service dog actually before he got out. He had been injured and was medically retired, and while he was in, was able to, through K9s For Warriors, get a service dog. For him, that was probably the thing that saved his life, as he, like many other veterans, suffered from some PTSD and TBI from blast explosions and fighting in combat. Joe was in the military when the Iraq War started. He was serving a deployment to Kosovo or Bosnia or something like that when the planes hit the towers during 9/11. So, I'm sure you can imagine going from pre-war army to wartime army must have been something to experience. I mean, I was in high school when it happened, so, we were already at war. The expectations were, that you were going to serve in combat. After getting the dog, Joe realized how effective it was at, not only saving his own life, but, seeing the transformation in other guys' lives as well. Because of that, Joe Swoboda, being the servant leader that he is, decided to become very active with K9s For Warriors. He actually sits on their board and did a documentary explaining, the process of getting service animal. Today he's going to share his story with us and, talk about some of the things that he's been through, how getting a service dog really helped him, and, just other stuff that, he's figured out over the years to be happy. If you enjoy it, something resonates with you, you'd like to be a part of the show, or just say something to Joe, please reach out. You can comment or subscribe to our show, and hope to see you there. So, thank you.
Get it out.
Hey, welcome to the Art of Resilience podcast with your host, Jim Artman. And today I'm interviewing retired Sergeant First Class Joe Swoboda. He served 18 years. Is that correct, Joe?
Yep. 18 years, 8 months.
We met several years ago on my last combat deployment, which was in Iraq at Fallbase Canneria, and he was in charge of all the mechanics that worked on our vehicles. And awesome dude, great leader, great man, and has been very active with K9s For Warriors since getting out and helping other service members that maybe struggle with PTSD or disability get access to a service dog. And within that, also participated, actually pretty much led efforts for a documentary called Reinforcements, kind of discussing his work there with K9s For Warriors and sharing a story of, how veterans really, they look out for each other, and that's what he was doing, and it's really awesome. So I'm pumped to interview Joe and, get another opportunity in another way to share your story, and, hopefully it resonates with some other guys experiencing, same thing we all do, really.
Oh yeah. I'm glad to be here, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, for sure. So, like I said, Joe and I were on a combat deployment together, and I noticed that it was the 20th anniversary since the beginning of the Iraq War, and I thought it would be pretty cool to reach out to some guys that I served with. Pretty much all of them I had spoke with since that deployment, or shortly after. So it's been over 10 years, almost 15 years.
Oh yeah, it's been a while.
And it's been cool. It's really cool talking to you guys. I feel like, just kind of pick up where we left off. Doesn't seem like it's been that long, it almost seems like yesterday. Anyways, I wanted to interview guys and just kind of see, what their experience has been like, and, reflect on the war some. Joe, why don't you tell everybody like how many years you ended up serving and where you served at?
Yeah, I ended up doing 18 years and 8 months. I ended up medically retiring from IED blasts, I guess. I ended up with a small tear in my brain somewhere, and they felt that it was better that I medically retire than actually retire. And yeah, it actually worked out well for me because it got me out in the civilian world, and so I could start doing what became my passion, and that's helping other combat veterans out there. As everybody knows, it's not easy at all to transition from being active duty and in and out of combat zones and everything that comes with that. And then you find yourself as a civilian with no direction, really. So I really wanted to start putting something together so I could fix that for some people and make it easier. So it ended up working out pretty good for me.
So being in for 18 years, 8 months, you were in when the war started. Is that correct?
I was, yep. During 9/11, I was actually deployed with 3rd Infantry Division to Kosovo. And it's funny when I think back at that time, I didn't even know what the Twin Towers even was. I knew that it was in New York, but I'd never seen it. I didn't really know anything about it. And I remember hearing, people talking down the motor pool, hey, the towers have been attacked in New York City. And I thought, what? Are you serious? And, it was definitely a surprise. I had to catch up on what's out there in the world, So yeah, we were, like I said, we were deployed in Kosovo, and it was wild because my family's back home, and here we are in another country trying to help other people, and then we get attacked,
That's wild. I mean, for me personally, I was, still in high school when that happened.
Yeah.
My sophomore year of high school. So that would be pretty interesting to be already in the military and deployed, when you get attacked. I'm sure everybody was probably, I mean, do you feel like you kind of understood what was about to happen when that happened?
When I think back, I didn't know what to think. I'd never, well, I can say up until that point for me, the military was basically a 9-to-5 job, besides
Right.
all of your stuff that happens on the side. But that was a kick in the butt, wow, this stuff can really happen in the world. And I'm a soldier, so I would imagine I'm going to end up going and dealing with somebody, So it was a rush of all kinds of emotions, and plus I was a young NCO, and I had several soldiers underneath me, and of course they're looking at me with questions that I really didn't have the answer, but you can't tell them that. You gotta just go find these answers for them, and give them comfort that we're going to get through it no matter what it is. So, and I did that. So,
do you feel like yourself or a lot of guys that you were serving with were a little nervous or scared about what was about to happen?
oh, absolutely. I think if anybody was to ever say that they weren't scared in that position, they definitely need to relook at the past and you know, and be truthful to themselves, because I don't think anybody around me at that time sitting on that fob just south of the Serbian border that wasn't scared. You know, nobody really knew. We only had a few combat veterans in our ranks. Of course, we're Desert Storm, and they were definitely the direction that we needed. You know, so you know, we were all asking them, hey, what the heck is going to happen now? What are we going to do? You know, and lucky for me, I had a couple that ended up being with us all the way into Iraq. So that was great. I got to learn some side notes, you know, before I was thrown right into it. So yeah, it was pretty wild.
It is wild. So, was our deployment together? Was that your last combat deployment as well, or did you do?
Yep. FOB Iscan was my last. We came back in 2009, and actually that was my third one, because I did the initial invasion, and then 05 I went back to Iraq, and I had actually called my not VA, I want to say VA, but my branch manager and told him, hey, look, you know, this is my third tour, and I really would like to do something different, maybe teach young soldiers, you know, before they start deploying. Excuse me. And I ended up getting that wish. I went from that last deployment to Fort Benning, Georgia, and sorry, and became an instructor at the Bradley School. So,
wait, so you were at Fort Benning the same time I was? So, because I went to Fort Benning after that deployment to teach sniper school.
Yep. So, when we came back from that deployment, I want to say it was maybe June. I'd actually gone to Fort Knox first, and as soon as we got to Fort Knox, we learned that the armor school was going to move to Fort Benning and become
to the Maneuver Center of Excellence.
Yeah, Maneuver Center of Excellence. That's what it was. And yeah, we actually, the Bradley School, as you know, was right next to the sniper school. So that's crazy. I probably saw you 100 times and didn't even know it.
I used to go down to eat your chow sometimes after PT.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's a good place.
That's funny. Well, I know it's crazy we never ran into each other there.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, you know, you ended up with a service dog. You know, what was it like for you when you first got out of the military? Like, you know, you said you didn't have any direction really. Like, was it difficult? You were married at the time too, right?
Yep. I'd been married for a while. Both my kids were young. I believe I think they were the end of elementary school. It was pretty wild for me, because when I learned of my brain injury, of course I was an instructor, and my sergeant major sent me over to the sort of wounded warrior detachment. I can't remember what they called it, but you know, I got over there and I was having cranial seizures, and they were trying to put me on all these medications, and I'm just not one for taking a lot of meds, you know, and I really wanted to find a different route to deal with what was going on with me. Once you got over to the Wounded Warrior Detachment there, you know, it's run by the National Guard, and you just have all day long just to deal with your medical stuff, you know, and prepare to be medically retired. So I actually had met a guy that had started K9s For Warriors down in Florida, Ponte Vedra, Florida, and he convinced me to come down and try it, and I took leave, went down and attended the course, he kind of messed with me. For people that don't know me, I'm 6'5" and about 350 pounds. And he he told me, man, I got this great little Chihuahua for you. It's gonna work out beautiful for you. And I was like, dude, I'm not walking around with a Chihuahua. I'm just not doing it, you know. Of course, he was messing with me, you know. And I got down there and found my dog Lily. She's a Mastiff Lab mix. And she's about 130 pounds, so it's not a Chihuahua, thank God. But you know, when I graduated the course and we became a canine team, at first it was really wild to be in that situation. You know, to be a full-grown adult and going into a restaurant with a service dog. Of course, you become a movie star. You know, everybody loves dogs, so everybody stares at you, and it really was hard to deal with. But the training that they had given us down there, you know, it really came together. I think it was harder for my wife though to be in that kind of environment with a dog, you know, because everybody stares at you. But I found that the feelings that I was having with not being back in my regular unit doing what I had learned to do over 18 years, you know, I was really lost. I didn't know. By this time, I was a sergeant first class, and you know, I had several instructors underneath me, and then all of a sudden, it was just kind of pulled out from underneath me at nobody's fault, you know, and I really didn't know what to do. I didn't really have a direction, you know, and I felt alone, like most veterans do when they actually get out of the military. It's almost like feeling like you go to work one day and the next day they put you on a bus and drop you off in the middle of nowhere. You know, you don't know what to do because all you know is the Army. And for me, the service dog really helped just by maybe placing my hand on her ears, you know, just kind of like feeling that she's there. And it gives you a sense of having a battle buddy with you still, you know. And it really, really was some great medicine for me to get that feeling, you know, of not being alone. That, for me, that was the hardest thing about separating from service, you know, just being alone, you know. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of guys experience that. I know I felt the same way when I got out. It's just hard to relate to most people. And, you know, definitely understand feeling lost too. You know, I was in college, but, you know, didn't really know exactly what I wanted to do with it. And, but that's awesome that she helped you out there. I know we from when we talked the other day, I have my dog. He's sitting back here curled up in my room right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he just follows me around everywhere constantly.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah. I love it.
I love having him around. So how long was it before you ended up with Lily? Was it, I mean, you said you got her while you were still in.
Yeah, I actually got her. I probably spent about, I want to say probably 5 months I spent in the Wounded Warrior Detachment. What is it called? WTB, I think it was. I spent about 5 months still active duty with her, and you know, the command team over there was totally supportive of it, you know, and the regulations at that time with service dogs for active duty personnel was kind of up in the air. Nobody really knew what to do in this situation, you know, so we kind of played it by ear, and it really was an experience to be in formation and
with your dog. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, have this dog standing next to me, and it was kind of cold that winter in Fort Benning, and it was funny. I remember one instance the first sergeant was up talking, and you know, we're all standing at parade rest, and here's Lily next to me. Well, she started shivering, and her teeth started chattering, and it was loud. Everybody is trying not to laugh, you know, and even the first arm was like, all right, let's get done, because obviously the dog is cold. It was crazy, man, especially being an E7, you know, and going through that. But like I said, the command team was, you know, very supportive, and I got through it. And thankfully, I had that 5 months or so to be with her and be around other soldiers, you know. So I was able to transition, and it felt like one of my soldiers was leaving the Army with me, you know. And because I'll tell you, as you know, you don't really see that coming, man. Because, you know, when you're wearing the uniform and you're a leader, you're making stuff happen all the time, you know, and you're leading soldiers and getting them through their lives and struggles, and then bam, you're out, and you don't have that anymore. You know, that's not there, because civilians, they don't give a damn who you are. You know, you're either going to be part of society or you're not. You know, everything is up to you. PT is up to you. Eating properly is up to you. You know, I've never been one for alcohol and drugs and stuff. I found that my thing was overeating and not taking care of my physical body, you know. And I gained a bunch of weight, you know, and that causes depression, and everything just kind of piles down on top of you. So that led me into going back to K9s For Warriors and saying, hey, you know, I'm experiencing this. What can I do? Because I have nothing but time now. What can I do to assist other soldiers who are about to go through what I just went through and what I'm going through now? So, and that actually led me to doing things like the film, and I've done some dog food commercials for canines and stuff like that. A lot of traveling, and yeah, it really was a blessing. So
that's awesome.
Yep.
So, you know, after, you know, you've been out since what, 2013, right? So it's been about 10 years. And
10 years, which is crazy.
I know. Isn't it weird? You know, the kids are learning about this in school now. You know, like the war that we fought in.
It blows my mind, because, man, I bet it was 3 years into retirement, I still had this mentality of, man, I better let somebody know where I'm at. I should be coming off leave by now or something. You know, just in the back of your mind, you're thinking that, like, oh, I need to let someone know where the heck I'm at. I'm going to get in trouble, you know. I swear it was at least 3 years before I got over that. And yeah, I'm sitting at the 10-year mark, like you said, and I'm just now starting to feel comfortable in this civilian environment, which is crazy. That's wild to even think of that, you know. Even around my family, you know, I have a lot of cousins, and they're fantastic people. And, you know, I could be at a barbecue or something talking to all my cousins that I grew up with, and I don't feel like I'm part of that. You know, I don't feel like me and them are on the same page of music, you know. Not that I'm better than them, but you understand what I'm saying. It just didn't. It doesn't feel comfortable, because, you know, they're talking about souping up Harley Davidsons, and I'm thinking about, you know, what I did on a mission in Iraq with a Bradley. You know, it's just it. For me, that was the biggest struggle, and to hear kids learning about us, what you and I and everybody else did during that time, blows my mind. You know, it's wow, you know, and I still today struggle with that same thing. You know, I've got to stop thinking about what I did on a particular mission. You know, I've got to just get myself in a position where I can respect what I used to do and think of it as a great part of my life. Because as you know, a lot of things were horrible in war, but a lot of things were fun too. You know, we did a lot of hanging out, we did a lot of cool stuff, and, to get yourself on that level in your mind, man, I'm at the 10-year mark and I still haven't become proficient in it. So it's tough.
You mentioned, in the documentary, reinforcements about moving forward, always moving forward. What is that? What did you mean by that exactly, in the film?
What I mean by that is knowing where you've been, what you've done, what you've seen. It seems to grab you and hold you down, because you're in that frame of mind of thinking of rolling down Route Irish in Baghdad, and seeing green or red flares up ahead, knowing, oh, that's a green flare. That means that they see us coming, and we're not an armored column, so go ahead and hit them, Thinking about that, it seems to hold you down into that particular thought, and you're not moving forward. Trying to teach yourself to, have those thoughts and then get right back out of them, and train yourself to think, you know what, I've been through that. I saw that happened, but I also got away from that. I wasn't attacked, or I was and I survived. What happened the next day when I was at Chow having a blast with my buddies? You got to keep moving forward. You can't allow certain things in your mind to make you go backwards. We were hit that day. Maybe I shouldn't be here anymore. Why am I still here? That makes you go backwards. If you can get around that and think, yes, that happened to me, but I've got to keep moving forward. What happened the next day? What happened when I came home, and I had my first child? You got to move forward. You got to keep looking ahead and finding things that are bright, And if they're not bright, what can I do to make those bright? We've been through some horrible things, and life is definitely not the same. It's not the same now as it was before I joined the Army. But I know that it can still be great. It can still be a fantastic life. I can go get on my Harley and just take a ride, look up in the sky, enjoy the wind, or do something with my kids. You just got to keep moving forward. You got to find those avenues in your mind to keep that moving forward. So,
yeah, I think I discovered that for myself, a couple of years ago, which, I think you have to remain vigilant in that mindset as well, because even if you came to that conclusion at one point in your life, it could resurface for you again, where you have to remind yourself, like what you just said, like you don't have to cling to or subscribe to this past as something that is going to affect how you can live the quality of your life now. None of that can be changed. But sometimes it is difficult to maintain that. I found that I have to remind myself of that sometimes. My wife's good at helping me with that too.
Yeah, mine too. Yeah, thank God. There's a lot of guys out there that don't have that, but they do have something. They do have something that they may not be thinking about. It may be something in their life. They have a grandmother or a grandfather or a dog. That brings me back to K9s For Warriors and the other companies that are out there doing the same mission. To have something that you know, for me, just touching my dog's ears, I don't know what it is about a dog's ears, but they're like extremely soft. And if you just touch a dog's ears, it sounds weird, but it's so true. It just kind of relaxes you, like, you know, I'm still here. You know, I'm still here, and whatever's going on around me does not define who I am. You know, I know who I am, you know, and that kind of brings you back to that playing field that you can deal with, you know.
So after, you know, having all these things to have to overcome, you know, and, you know, working so closely, being so aware of the issues that most of the veterans are dealing with PTSD and suicide, what is your opinion about the war? You know, like, I know when we spoke, I think we both sort of shared the sentiment when we were younger that, like, we weren't into politics, you know. It's like, whatever. I signed up in the military to deploy. You know, it was kind of exciting. And, you know, all I really cared about, which I'm sure you're the same, you know, is getting myself and my men home safely and doing the best job that I could ethically, you know.
Absolutely. And I, of course, I felt the same way back then, as a leader. And now on the other side of it, 10 years later, I look back on it and I'm a lot more, I'm able to look at things much different on a political level. You know, it saddens me to come to the realization that everything that happens in this world is because of money, you know, and it's extremely sad to look at all of the things that we've been into with our country, like Iraq. You know, what the heck were we even doing over there? You know what I mean? Why in the world did we allow ourselves to get into that, you know? And I used to think, when we were in Iraq, I used to think the reason why we're in Iraq is to make Al-Qaeda come to us and fight us on their land instead of coming to the United States and hurting our people on our land. That's what I used to think. That used to motivate me to go through those missions and all those horrible recovery missions and all the things that we did together, you know. Now on the other side of it, I look at it and I think all that crap happened because people wanted to make money, you know, and that's the bottom line. You know, anybody who doesn't think that is foolish. They need to look at it. You know, it's blatant to me now. You know, now on top of that, it doesn't take away from my experiences. It doesn't take away from the friendships that I made, the lessons learned, you know, that's made my life better. I kind of have to, you can't let yourself be angry about it because it was completely out of our hands. You know, there's nothing as soldiers that we could have done except from support each other, you know. And, you know, you and I and thousands and thousands of other soldiers didn't go over there because we wanted to do damage to other human beings. We went over there because we knew that we needed to get our friends and ourselves home, and the only way to do that is to support each other. So I feel good about that, you know.
Yeah.
So
I do too. That was, you know, I think being a sniper in the military, you know, there's a lot of commanders or people who think we're just a bunch of fucking cowboys that want to smoke people.
Yeah.
And, you know, probably in certain aspects of my career, like, that was sort of true, but not to the extent to where, you know, that was why I wanted to do it. I viewed my job as, like you said, like, being there to make passage for my fellow soldiers safer, you know, and just support, you know, any kind of combat operations. But, you know, I think it is interesting, you know, that we endured so much, from being in combat and in a war zone, for something that's like not really a cause that you and I, or probably a lot of other veterans, believe in or care much about, Um, so, but it's under this guise of we're there protecting our country. I'm sure on a certain level that's true, but I agree with you. There's a lot of really valuable lessons that I learned, even on that deployment, about how to be a better leader, and learned a lot about myself as well. So I definitely am grateful for that. Are you familiar with the term post-traumatic growth?
Post-traumatic growth. No, I haven't heard that. I think I could understand what it would mean, though. Yeah, give it to me.
So it's a term I discovered years ago, just from all my research and trying to figure this stuff out, how to be good, and grow and heal. And basically, post-traumatic growth describes a situation where the adversity, the trauma that you experience really becomes a catalyst for significant personal growth. Because without going through that experience and having to figure out how to overcome that, and then come out on the other side like yourself, in a position to where, you've gained a lot of valuable insight and wisdom and healed, and are in a place to share that experience with other people, and lead. And I love it when you were talking about, your experience at war and stuff. And it made me think of that, because that's how I view you and what you've done. Because I've, even though we haven't spoke, I've seen, followed you on social media over the years and seen you, very active in working to help other veterans out. I think it's awesome.
It's definitely a passion for me, and I'd never heard that before, but that makes total sense. And I can definitely look at myself, and I've definitely grown and learned from my, post-traumatic experiences. And I remember sitting on the border in 2003 for the invasion. I never thought in a million years that Saddam and his fucked up sons would ever, not listen to President Bush, knowing that the 3rd Infantry Division and everybody else is sitting on his border ready to come in there and whoop his ass, And then I remember I remember when I heard it come across the net that we were going and war had been declared, and I thought to myself, what? Are you kidding me? I figured we were just going to go home, show of force, go back to Kuwait, do all the BS that comes with Kuwait, with the wash racks and loading back on the ships and all that crazy stuff, and then go to the house, and then when I heard that come across the net, I thought, oh my God, this is real. And then once we jumped across the border, the first 15 minutes of combat, I watched an Iraqi soldier get cut in half by coax from a Bradley, and I thought, holy shit, this is not a 9-to-5 job anymore. This is definitely traumatic. And I've got an 11-man team that's following me, and, that in itself is huge, man. I got 11 people that I'm responsible for, Thank God that my training and God above just watching out, I got all my soldiers home. Thank God. But at that time, that's, I don't know if it gets any more traumatic than that. You know what I mean? And if it does, I don't know if I want to be there for it. You know what I mean? So, but the lessons that I learned from that was, no matter what is happening, you know, you have to be, if you're a leader, you have to lead. No matter what, you got to lead, because people's lives depend on that, you know, and today things can really stress me out. I mean, not so much bills, because my wife is a money genius, you know. she takes care of our bills like no other. So I don't have money issues, but there are other issues, you know, getting up in the morning and knowing that I've got to work out. I've got to do something physical. I've got to stay active, because my body type, I can gain weight really fast, you know, and when you gain weight, you feel horrible, man. You feel like you're not even human anymore. It's terrible, you know. When you're not doing PT anymore, it's tough to get your ass out of bed and do stuff. And those traumatic experiences keep me going. I know that even though it feels horrible to have to do things you don't want to do, I know that it needs to be done, and I know that I can do it. So I stay on top of it, you know, and so yeah, that totally makes sense to me, and I believe in that wholeheartedly, you know. So
yeah, I think it's you know, it's a really important distinction for yourself that you kind of touched on, is, you know, instead of looking at those traumatic experiences as something that, you know, solely had a negative impact on you and affected your ability to be okay mentally or physically, but I think a lot of guys kind of forget how badass they were when they were in, you know, that they had that fucking ability to get shot at, get knocked down, be tired, and lean into the fight always. And, you know, I think maybe sometimes you abandon that, you know, like forget like that was a thing. So to look back on that and remember like how capable of a human you are, you know, and that you can apply that in this context as well as, you know, one in a much more terrifying situation where you're being engaged by enemies, you know.
right. Right.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, there's been little stuff like that for me that I like just kind of recall, you know, like sort of mantras, you know, that I hold on to as reminders. So like, quit being a pussy.
Right. Right.
You know?
Oh yeah. Hey, because you know what, we can all feel that way. Yeah. For
yeah,
sure.
for
You
sure.
know.
So, what do you feel like are two of like the most important things that you've learned about what it takes to be resilient now in your life, outside of the military?
I think that one thing for me would be what I've learned is life is ever changing. It's never the same. Like if you look back when we were serving, life was always the same. You know, you were, well, me being an instructor, and you probably did the same thing. You know, you're up at 4 o'clock. I had to wake the troops up at like 4:45. You know, and then you've got PT at 6 o'clock for senior leaders. You know, and then everything had its time. You know, 7:30's chow. You know, I think it was like 8:30 was work call, and you know, and then you had, what was lunch, like 11:30 or something. Everything had its time, and every day was already made for you. All you had to do was meet your goals, you know, and then get on to the next thing for that day. And then you knew COB was 17:30. You're out, you know. And now we don't have that. You know, when my wife goes to work, I can, if I wanted to, I could sit in this house all day and watch the History Channel, because I'm big into history. I can do that all day long, but you know what? If I let myself do that, then tomorrow I'll do the same thing. You know, for me to be resilient in this crazy ass civilian world, I must keep myself occupied. I have to think of goals that I can make. You know, I've got this crazy huge ass backhoe that I just go out back in my woods and I just do landscaping stuff, you know, and I make things. Okay, today I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the backhoe for a couple hours, and then I'm going to go to the veterans home and go visit a couple of my World War II buddies. You know what I mean? I keep myself occupied. I think that for me is the biggest lessons learned from combat and my military experience that keeps me resilient in this world is that making goals and timelines, you know. And sometimes I fail. I mean, a lot of times I fail, you know. Sometimes I have those days where I let shit get to me. You know, I think about, you know, our friends that are still on patrol over there, you know, never came home with us. I think about that, you know, and sometimes I let that get to me. But I know that I have to stop myself and I have to get back on my timeline. You know, I'm going to do lunch at this time. I'm going to do this at this time. I'm going to make sure I do the dishes for my wife before she comes home, because I never did that as a soldier. I didn't give a shit about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, I didn't recognize that my wife was a full-time teacher and mother. You know, I never came home and did dishes. I was a shitbag. You know, in my mind, I was a platoon sergeant in the Army. That was my job. When I came home, I cracked a beer, I sat in the chair, and I let my wife wash dishes. I was a shitbag. You know, I learned that. Well, now I make it a point that I do the dishes for her, you know, because even though I have created timelines for myself, you know, I have to fit that in there. And that alone right there, trying to keep your wife happy, will keep you resilient. You know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she ain't gonna let you circle the drain too long.
No, not my wife. I'll tell you that.
It's funny. I'm in a similar situation as I just moved across the country for my wife's work, and
yeah,
I've just been house husband. You know, cleaning the house and doing the dishes.
Yeah,
feeding our 5-year-old.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Wait till your 5-year-old becomes an adult. My daughter's a biologist now. She actually just turned 25 yesterday, which blows my mind. I can't even believe it. My firstborn is 25. She was only in elementary school when I retired, you know, so it's crazy. Life with adult children is a whole nother bracket, you know. Because you can see what they do wrong and you can intervene, but you can't really have a say in what they do, you know, and they're sure to let you know that. So my advice, brother, is enjoy your 5-year-old right now, because that's going to be the greatest times of your life, you know.
I have an 11-year-old daughter, and she's already like what you just described.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to share with the people that are going to listen to this or watch it?
Yeah.
Anything that would be helpful for people that may still be struggling, feeling isolated?
Yeah. Let me say this to any other combat veteran that's out there that is going through what I've been through and what I go through every day. And same thing with you, you know, listen, life is not the same. Okay. Life will never be the same as it was before you went through those traumatic experiences of wearing the uniform and defending this nation, even though people don't and will never recognize what we've done for them. That's fine. Whatever. But just know that your life will never be the same, but your life can still be awesome. It can be amazing. You know what I mean? All you got to do is just stand up, move forward, Pick something to do. Keep your mind occupied. And if you need a buddy, call a buddy, or you can go to K9s4Warriors.org. Get on the list. Get you a service dog. It worked for me. It's worked for 500 plus other warriors out there, and many, many more to come. Don't allow yourself to feel alone. You can do this. Life is still awesome. So that's probably my most important message to everybody out there. Just get moving forward. Don't stop. Move forward at all times. So
that's awesome. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for being willing to come on here and share your story. I'm looking forward to talking to some of the other guys as well. And, you know, kind of sharing it all. I think we're going to probably put it on, I might just do it like each individual interview, so you can see that by itself, and then maybe combine some of them to add some B-roll footage.
Heck yeah, brother. Well, it's great talking to you, man. And I'm here whenever you need me. And same with other guys. If you ever need to talk, get a hold of me. I'm on Facebook. You can't forget this big old mug, so you can find me.
Absolutely. So, hey, I remember you said something about doing some motorcycle riding this summer.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be in Kentucky. Probably going to be the end of June. And man, I'd love to link up with anybody who wants to ride. I always bring 3 Harleys with me. My son rides now. My wife rides. And heck yeah, man, if anybody's in that area and you want to get out there and put in some miles, and, you know, we'll do some food somewhere. And I will talk about anything to do with the Army. I don't keep anything back. I don't let it, you know, take my legs out from underneath me. If someone's having a problem and they're in that area, it's going to be around the end of June. And if you get on my Facebook, I'll post it. Yeah, let's do some riding, and let's talk about some shit that's going on, so we can all move forward. That's my most important thing. So
awesome. All right. Well, thanks again, Joe. It was great talking to you.
Absolutely, brother. You too.
All right. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, man. Send my love to the family.
All right. Yeah, you too.
All right. Later.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. We really hope you liked this episode. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. It truly helps, and we appreciate it immensely. And one last thing, guys, please share this video to everyone you think it may help. It allows our content to reach those that may need it most. But all right, see you next time. Peace.